எல்லோருக்கும் என் சிரம் தாழ்ந்த வணக்கங்கள் பல.
Okay, now start, sir. Dr. Rao.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Rao starts now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Narayan Rao.
Namaskar.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
And good evening, everybody. I welcome all of you to this Sunday webinar hosted by Philosophy Family. Today we have with us Professor Alagar Ramanujan, sir. He is a retired professor in physics, not philosophy, but he is very much connected to philosophy. He is making efforts to connect physics with philosophy. That's how he is connected to Philosophy Family now. We, the members of Philosophy Family, got in touch with Professor Ramanujan during the course of the International Conference on Yoga, and he has already delivered one lecture in Philosophy Family under the title Science of Mind. And today it's a sequel to that lecture. It is the part, earlier it was Science of Mind Part 1. Today he will be delivering a sequel to that lecture, a continuum to that lecture under the same title, Science of Mind. So in the last lecture, Professor Ramanujan has beautifully tried to establish that space is the fundamental reality out of which everything has shaped up. So he tries to make an assertion, a bold assertion, taking the lines of going in the lines of Vedakarian Maharishi. The space is the ultimate reality, and space is charged with both consciousness and energy. This is the first statement that he makes, and he says, space, everything, the material world, it has come out of space. So these are the two things, important things that Professor Ramanujan has tried to say during the course of his last lecture. And now we are very much eager to learn from Professor Ramanujan as to what he has got in store for all of us. So we all are very eager to learn from him what ideas that he has in his mind. So without delaying much, let us move to Professor Alagar Ramanujan, sir, for the lecture. At the same time, I welcome Professor Vijay Arora and newcomers today, Dr. Soni Sharma and others whom I see, and I welcome Professor Ranjit Ghosh, sir, our regular participant in Philosophy Family and a well-wisher in Philosophy Family, and also welcome all the participants. I welcome our admin, Professor Pramod Kumar Das, who is the man behind all these programs in Philosophy Family. So I welcome one and all to this Sunday webinar. Without wasting much time, let us move to Professor Ramanujan for the lecture. Welcome, sir. Please. Professor Ramanujan, please.
Be blessed. Be blessed. By the grace of the Almighty, may the whole world enjoy peace, prosperity, and happiness. வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன். Pranams to our Guru, Sri Vedakarian Maharishi. Friends, it is a great pleasure to meet you over this program, and I'm happy my good friend Mr. Vijay Arora from USA, who has also co-authored with me in writing a recent book, Physics Redefined. For all this to happen, I remain thankful to my good friend, Mr. Pramod, Mr. Narayan Rao, and I'm happy. I see almost people who attended the last lecture are present here. I'm very happy. Srinivasan Krishnamurthy is there, and all my friends are there. And now we begin the lecture, The Science of Mind, part 2. A brief summary about the lecture, about the last lecture. Thanks to a great thinker, Sri Vedakarian Maharishi of Tamil Nadu, who attained his samadhi about 15 years ago. Thanks to his revelations, we have a radically new approach to both the traditional science and the traditional philosophy. Vedakarian Maharishi's approach is purely logical, and in his approach, the traditional science gets the proper philosophical foundations, and the traditional philosophy gets a scientific approach and outlook to its concepts. It all started with Newton, who described the reality before him as a combination of 4 independent entities: space, time, matter, and energy. He treated all the 4 entities as completely independent of each other. Later came Einstein. And when Einstein came, he worked with the 4 entities, but he said they are not really independent. He showed that matter can go over to energy and energy can go over to matter. So they are not independent. They are the 2 coins of this, they are the 2 sides of the same coin. Similarly, he showed space and time are again 2 sides of another coin. Therefore, Einstein reduced the 4 independent entities of Newton to just 2: space-time and matter-energy. And he gave a different physics, a different science, and Einstein became very famous because of this reduction. When he attained so much popularity over reducing the 4 to 2, Einstein thought that, what if I can reduce the 2 into 1? So that was his ambition during the final years of his life. So he started unified field theory. Unified. But out of the 4 entities, space, matter, time, and energy, Einstein could not locate what is that which is really independent and how other things follow from that. He could not locate that. So the problem of reducing the 2 to 1 remained even after Einstein. And then comes Vedakarian Maharishi. Of the 4 independent entities which Newton talked about, Maharishi says space is the real independent and all other 3 entities emanate from space. So he located the space as the independent one, the really independent one. So he was bold enough to say that the space is the ultimate independent entity. And all other three things, time, matter, and energy, emanate from that. And when he developed his theory of space, we must make it clear that when we say space, in Vedakarian concept, it is boundaryless. The space is boundaryless. The space is eternal. And Vedakari, by his revelation, identified two important characteristic phenomena with space. That space is of consciousness and potential energy. So when we say space, it is a primordial one. It is eternal in time, and it is everywhere without any gap between one object and another. It is everywhere. Then, from that space, things developed. When he comes to the methodology of how the space became the particles, he gives an example for us to understand the phenomenon a bit easily. The example is, we have the atmospheric air extending up to, say, 11 to 10, 12 kilometers. In the atmospheric air, when there develops a small portion of the air with a spin motion, we call that localized spin motion in the atmospheric air as storm. Storm is nothing but air with a spin motion, that's all. Once it gets a spin motion, it moves. It gets an identity. We say it moves in the north direction. And nowadays we even give names for that. And it carries a momentum. So that storm is nothing but air, but with a spin motion. When it gets a spin motion, it gets an identity and carries a momentum. Similarly, Vedakari Maharishi says, in the vast space of consciousness and potential energy, when an infinitely small portion of space, when it develops a spin motion, it becomes a particle. So in Vedakarian concept, a particle is nothing but infinitely small portion of space, but with a rotational motion, spin motion. And the first particle to come out of the space, that particle, Maharishi named that as Akash particle. So we must be clear in understanding that in Maharishi's concept, when we use the word Akash, it is an infinitely small particle. That understanding must be there. So the particle with a spinning motion, further Vedakari says, that particle with a spin motion is there in the field of consciousness. Because of its spin motion, that particle produces a ripple produces an outgoing wave in consciousness or waves in space. So that is a consequence of the spin of the particle. So we must make it clear that only one thing we must make it very clear that in Vedakarian concept, when we say Akash, Akash means an infinitely small particle. In fact, it is infinitely small portion of space with a spin motion. And the group of particles, the group of Akash particles became the different elements. So we have Akash particle, then air particles, and then fire, oxygen, and then water, liquid, and then we have the solid particles. So these are the basic things in the Vedakarian concepts. Now, friends, now let us see the consequences that we meet with the Vedakarian concept. Even today, the science in the Western world, a Newtonian science or Einsteinian science, or even the latest Stephen Hawking's science, in the Western world, all the scientists, even today, they start the science with the fundamental particle which we call the Akash particle. So they start the science with the fundamental particles and going above the combinations of those particles, how they behave, how they become molecules, how molecules become big matter, and how these things became the stars and planets like that. So the beginning is the fundamental energy particle they start with, which we call in our Vedakarian concept the Akash. The fundamental particle we call the Akash. But the appeal of Vedakari Maharishi to the present day science is that instead of starting your science from the fundamental particle, that is from the Akash particle, start your science from space, which is the source of the particle. So Maharishi appeals that begin from the beginning, not halfway. So the trouble with the traditional science today is that they start science not from the beginning, but from the halfway. So our appeal to the modern science is that start your science, anything, whether it is physics or chemistry or zoology or evolutionary science, anything, start your science from the beginning, that is from space. That is the appeal we give to the current science. And when we begin the science from the beginning, many things get clear. Now I will tell you some of the points, how things become very clear when you begin your science from the very beginning, that is a space, the primordial space. Now, Newton made the statement that matter is matter, energy is energy. They are independent. One cannot go over into other. That is a statement of Newton. But now, Vedakari Maharishi says, when you begin the science from the beginning, that means from the space, the energy, the potential energy of the space by rotation became the particle. So Maharishi says, energy became the particle. Then it is possible that particle can become energy. See, by a simple logical argument, Vedakarian Maharishi says it is possible that matter can become energy. And this was proved by Einstein by the relation E equal to mc square. Therefore, the greatness of starting the science from the beginning is that what you are going to derive with a mathematical equation, you get it by a logical conclusion. But when Einstein derived E equal to mc square, the entire world admired him. But even prior to that, we have the concept that since the energy became the particle, it is now to be expected that particle can become the energy also. Nothing much is there. And second point, when you begin your physics or science from the beginning, you get another insight. In 1922, Einstein made a very famous statement, and he published a paper also based on the statement. In 1922, Einstein said, between one galaxy and another galaxy, there is a large, huge distance. The distance between any two galaxies is constant. That means Einstein saw the whole galaxies occupying a particular place. And so he made, we are living in a static universe. The distance between one galaxy and another galaxy will be constant. So we are living in a kind of a static universe. That is what Einstein published in 1922. But now come to Vedakarian Maharishi. Vedakarian Maharishi starts the science from the beginning. That means from the primordial space. Now Maharishi says Einstein could not be right. Without any calculation, without any paper, Maharishi says Einstein could not be right. Because between one galaxy and another galaxy, there is a huge space. And in that space, from the space, particles are coming. More and more particles are coming. So for the new particles, they need a place to live. Therefore, the distance will change. And once a particle comes spinning, it produces a wave. So many innumerable particles coming out of the space, they will produce waves, and these waves also will go there and push the things away. Therefore, Maharishi says the distance between the two galaxies cannot be the same. See, without any calculation, without a pen, without any calculation, Maharishi concludes that the distance between one galaxy and another galaxy will change. But Einstein in 1922 said it won't change. But after 6 years in 1928, Hubble showed that with enormous investment of telescope, with enormous investment of the observation place and everything, Hubble showed that the distance between any two galaxies is increasing. But what Hubble showed by experiment, Maharishi was of the same view without any experiment or anything in the lab. That was the greatness of starting the science from the beginning. You will get a lot of truths just coming out of that. So I'll give you another example where the Vedakarian science, which begins from the beginning, which begins from the primordial space, how it has got a triumph over the traditional science. I will give you one more example to show how much powerful the Vedakarian science is there. The Vedakarian science looks the whole universe as a transformed state, an excited state of the primordial space. The transformed state of the primordial space is the universe. Excited state of the space is the universe. And now, friends, you would have heard about a cosmological theory called Big Bang. They will say Big Bang model or Big Bang theory. Now at present, to the Big Bang model, it is essentially a product made in Europe. The Big Bang theory came up in European countries initially, and it was very much nurtured by the American scientists even today. And Stephen Hawking is a great admirer of the Big Bang theory. He did a lot of research in the Big Bang models. Essentially, the Big Bang theory is a product of an European product, that is. Now to the Big Bang, you put a question. You are putting a question to the Big Bang. What will happen to the future of the universe? Hubble has shown that the universe is expanding. The distance is increasing between any two galaxies. So expansion is there, expansion is there. What is the future of the universe? Now the Big Bang says, the future of the universe cannot be predicted. That is what the Big Bang says. There are two possibilities for the future of the universe. Either, first possibility, either the universe can go on expanding forever, or two, second possibility is that after a sufficient years of expansion, the expansion may stop. Only the two possibilities the Big Bang theory is saying. It is not able to say what will happen really. But now come to the Vedakarian science. You put the same question to the Vedakarian science. There is a beautiful answer in Vedakarian science to the question, what is the future of the universe? It's simply a logical one, that's all. Now Maharishi says in a very logical way, the particle from the space of consciousness and the potential energy, as a transformed state, a particle comes. A particle means it's a small portion of the space, but with a spin motion. So a particle is spinning, and as the time passes on, the spinning rate will go on decreasing, and finally the particle will become simply space. As the storm comes out of the atmospheric air, gradually its spinning motion, gradually it will decrease and becomes what? Again the atmospheric air. Similarly, Maharishi says, a particle is born of the consciousness. Since it is born out of consciousness, it has a tinge of consciousness. Every particle has a tinge of consciousness. That tinge of consciousness in the particle directs its motion, and its spinning motion gradually will decrease, and finally the particle becomes space again. That means Maharishi says every particle born out of consciousness has a tendency to return back to consciousness. This is a beautiful statement from science, of Vedakarian science. Every particle in the universe born out of consciousness has a tendency to go back into the same consciousness. Therefore, since every particle has that tendency, a group of particles, elements, and the group of elements, the stars, the whole stars combined, the universe, and the universe has a tendency to go back into space. That means Vedakarian science says the expansion of the universe will stop one day. It cannot expand forever. It will stop one day and it will start contracting. It will all go back into space. Therefore, what the Big Bang theory cannot predict, the Vedakarian science predicts that there will be an end to the current universe. The expansion will stop and finally everything will go back into space. Therefore, verily, everything out of the space and finally everything going back into the space. So, the traditional science giving some misleading answers. Newton gave the misleading answer that all the four quantities are independent. That is misleading. Einstein gave the misleading answer that the distance between any two galaxies will remain constant. That is his misleading statement. And all such misleading statements are now rectified in Vedakarian science. Because it is possible, because Vedakarian science begins from the beginning. So it is all powerful. Now, we have to develop a new science for the future. That new science will not start from the particle. It will not start from the Akash and its combination, but it will start from the space, the primordial space. And that will be entirely a new science. Friends, such a new science can come only from this country. Because only in this country already space has been extensively studied by various philosophers, by various rishis, and by various concepts. But in the Western world, when you say space, they only think the space interval between two objects. They are not even able to think a primordial space. So, a science starting from the primordial space cannot come from a Western world. A new science starting from the primordial space can come only from this country. And as a beginning of this new science, myself and my good friend, Mr. Vijay Arora, published recently in 2021, taking the Vedakarian science into account and what are its implications in the traditional science, we wrote a book, Physics Redefined, bracket, beginning from the beginning. That was a caption for the book, beginning from the beginning. And now the book is slowly percolating all over the countries. We are happy that scientists are slowly turning around to see this new Vedakarian science, which begins from the beginning. And with one more comment, I will switch over to the implications of Vedakarian thoughts in philosophy. So far, we discussed the implications in the Vedakarian science. Now, to conclude these implications in the traditional science, I will add one more, that's all. Friends, you know that science, as we study with equations, developed in the European country first. Newton was the author. So the 19th century science belongs to England because Newton was born there. He was the author of that science. So up to 19th century, Newton's science was ruling the world. Then afterwards, after 1900, the 20th century came. The 20th century, Einstein comes and he developed a new physics by reducing the 4 to 2. So the 20th century science belongs to German because Einstein hails from Germany. The same way now, 2 reduced to 1 by Vedakarian Maharishi, and now a new science has been born, and in the same way as the 19th century belongs to England, 20th century science belongs to Germany, 21st century science will belong to India. That is sure. And when we develop this science, that from the primordial space, particles are coming out, and the group of particles, the whole universe is coming out, when we pursue this science, a technology will come. When the technology will get the energy of the primordial space directly to the universe for us. So if only we can develop a technology to take the potential energy in space to our engine, we don't have to depend upon nuclear, we don't have to depend upon oil or anything. Okay? We depend only upon the space to get its potential energy to us. We need a technology. Therefore, the 21st century is belonging to India, and its technology will lead to a place where there will be a time when we will convert the potential energy of the space into the energy to drive our engines. It is all pollution free. So a future is there for the country, and the only thing is that we must have the belief in our own thinking system. We must have belief in our own philosophical sayings. Instead of copying simply whatever is said by the Western scientists, we must take a lead so that others may follow us. That courage we must have, that courageous position our scientists must take. So with this appeal, just one point, because that famous saying has come true now. When Jawaharlal Nehru was a prime minister, then one Indian scientist wrote to Jawaharlal Nehru that we have become independent and we must start build a great institute to develop the science in our own country. Homi Bhabha wrote the letter to Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. After independence, Homi Bhabha wrote a letter to Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru that it is time that we start a big institute for research in fundamental science. And that is how the Tata Institute of Fundamental Science, Fundamental Research came into existence. But when Homi Bhabha wrote the letter, his friends in the Western world made fun of him. How? They told Homi Bhabha, You are writing to your Prime Minister to start a big institute. Where are the scientists in your country to work with? You alone cannot do the whole institute. You alone cannot make the whole institute. There are no scientists in India at all. So it is a waste of time to start such an institute in India. Then Jawaharlal Nehru said, look here. Homi Baba told his friends, look here. India is a land of thinkers. India is a land of thinkers. We have to only change the direction of thinking, that's all. If only we can change the direction of thinking, we can achieve anything in science also in our country. And that statement of Homi Baba has come true. Because here in India, we are developing a new science where the science begins from the beginning. It is giving wonderful results. And as already suggested by one of the listeners here, one of the professors here, I think Mr. Om Narayana Rao. Last time he told, why don't you think in terms of an equation between space and energy? Because we have already an equation between matter and energy, E equal to mc square. So he told, why don't you try an equation between space and energy? And after that suggestion, we are looking this suggestion very seriously, and I have given this suggestion to my research team that to try to develop an equation between space and energy, and using that equation, we can convert the potential energy of the space into the usable energy for our engines. Therefore, a great future is there for India in that sense. Friends, now we come to the implications of the Vedakarian thoughts in philosophy. So we come to the philosophy, the field of philosophy. When we come to the field of philosophy, we again take the model, we consider the model of Vedakarian concepts, that primordial space of consciousness and potential energy, boundaryless space, is the base for the existence of everything in the universe. So that consciousness of the space, when a particle is born, the particle is born with a tinge of consciousness. Every particle has consciousness. Since every particle is of consciousness, the consciousness of the particle directs its behavior. Okay. How to behave, how to spin, the consciousness directs that. And finally, the same consciousness makes the particle to slow down and to go back into space. Therefore, every system is of consciousness. Every system is of consciousness. It is functioning because of consciousness. The system has its own individual consciousness. That individual consciousness of the system directs the functional aspect of the system. So, every system is of consciousness. Every system is functioning by consciousness. And finally, every system is for consciousness. It is returning back to consciousness. Therefore, in our philosophical term, we see the primordial space as the source of the particles, the source of the universe. Not only the source, It is because of the consciousness associated with the system, it is functioning also. It is because of the consciousness associated with the system, it returns back to the consciousness. So, seen in a different way, the consciousness of the space, the primordial space, generates everything. Every particle comes out of that, it generates everything. The same consciousness operates everything. The same consciousness, after the interval of time, deletes everything. Therefore, so far we were referring the primordial space. That primordial space can be seen in philosophy in a different angle. How? The primordial space is the source. It generates all the particles. It directs every particle. And finally, after some interval of time, it deletes every particle. Now you take the first letter of the three aspects. The primordial space generates G. It operates everything, O. It deletes everything, D. Therefore, in philosophy, the primordial space is God. So in Vedakarian science, we did not bring the word God. There, we emphasize only the primordial space. We use the name primordial space because that is understandable by every scientist in every country. But when we come to philosophy, first we must identify what is God. Otherwise, it is not philosophy. Therefore, the primordial philosophy, the primordial space, which generates everything, which operates everything, which deletes everything, is what we call God. So now I can say God became the particle. In philosophy, now I can say the God became the particle. And the particles combinations, 5 elements. The God became the 5 elements. And the 5 elements combined together, stars, the universe. So the God became everything. The stars and the whole galaxy and the whole universe. Now, I can give precious different definitions for this God. How? I have a history. I can have a history. I am the son of so-and-so. My father is the son of so-and-so. And previously like that. I have a history. If I look back the history, if I go on looking back, then the human being came from the 5th sense animals. They came from the 3rd sense. And then going back, single sense. And then what? 5 elements. 5 elements came from what? From the God, the primordial space. So my history begins from the primordial space, the God. In that sense, if you call God the Brahman, I am also of Brahman. It depends only on what name you are using for that God. If we call that God the Almighty Father, then I can claim I am the son of my father. Okay. If we call whatever name you can give for that God, I am of the same type. So that God, the primordial space, the God, it became everything. That means what? It became the 5 elements, it became the stars, it became the single cell, animals, trees, everything, finally the human being. Therefore, there is a famous statement that, very famous statement that God sleeps in minerals. He is there, but he sleeps there. God sleeps in minerals. The same God wakes up in vegetation. Vegetation, he wakes up. The same God walks in animals. Because vegetation cannot walk. The further up, he walks in animals. And finally, he thinks in man. So, the human being is nothing but a transformed state of God. And if we call God the primordial as Brahman, I am a transformed state of the Brahman. So this Brahman, yes, transformed state of the Brahman, the human being is there. So now let us focus on the human being. We are focusing on the human being now. Because the history of the human being I know. Just to focus on the human being, a living system. A human being is a living system. A human being has a skeleton that is a solid part of the 5 elements. He has a skeleton to grow in a right angle to the ground. And inside the skeleton, there are 4 circulations. There are 4 circulations inside the skeleton. One, the circulation of the blood. That means the liquid. Then the circulation of heat. Second one. Then the circulation of air. And finally, the first element, the Akash particle. Finally, the circulation of the Akash particle. Friends, here again, in Vedakarian philosophy, so far in medical science, and also in philosophy so far, we were talking only 3 circulations. We were talking blood circulation, heat circulation, air circulation, that is all. Now Vedakarian Maharishi adds one more. By his revelation, there is also a circulation of the Akash particles. The first element, Akash particles, there is a circulation. That circulation is the most important circulation, and that constitutes your life, your bio-life. So this is a great contribution from the Vedakarian philosophy. What is the bio-life? It is nothing but a power coming out of the circulation of the Akash particles. As we have in our current, in our house, the circulation of electrons gives a power which we call current, electrical current. Similarly, in our body, there is a circulation of the Akash particles which gives a power, a special power, which we call a biocurrent or life energy. So there are 4 circulations. And one more, we have to remember that one more. The life energy or the biocurrent is constituted by the circulation of the Akash particles. And each Akash particle is also spinning. Not only in circulation, it is also spinning. Because of the spinning, it produces waves in consciousness. Therefore, in a human being, there is a wave complex. When I say wave, it is a wave in space or wave in consciousness. So there is also a wave complex inside every human being. Therefore, what is a human being now? If we analyze, a skeleton to grow up, inside we have 4 circulations, plus inside we have a wave complex, wave conscious waves in consciousness forming a complex, a wave complex. Now, Maharishi says, what is the use of the wave complex in a living being or in a human being? What is the use of that? Why and what is it that is doing that wave complex? He comes to that question and he gives a very beautiful and a logical answer. He himself develops an answer for that. He says, or he puts a question to us. Suppose you are going to a cinema, a film. You like a song. And after 10 days, when you go for a walk, you are able to sing the song. So the song comes from inside your body. Therefore, the song must have been recorded inside. Somewhere, recorded must have been there. Only then it can come up now, after 10 days. Now, where the recording took place. Now, Maharishi says, recording means, imprint means, you just see the radio station or a TV station. What they do, where they record the pictures or the songs in a TV station, they record the information in a wave. And the waves are being sent to different directions. They carry the message. Similarly, the TV transmission, waves. The whole scenes are put in the wave. So recording is only in the wave and they are sent in different directions. Now Swamiji Maharishi comes to the answer that recording means it can take place only in a wave system. Luckily, I have a wave system. Waves in consciousness inside the jivan, inside my body. So when I saw the film, the song went through my ear to the brain, and from the brain, it was converted into a wave and it reached the wave complex. It became the wave complex in us. Therefore, inside the wave complex is doing a wonderful thing. Whatever I experience, they go through my brain. They get transformed into waves, and waves are coming and grouping together as a wave complex. So all my experiences are recorded daily. Every minute they are recorded in the wave complex. So the wave is full of records. You just see from the age of 3 up to now, 50 years up to now, how many experiences you have undergone. All those experiences have been recorded in a wave system inside you. And these imprints in your wave system, they are called, if it is science, they will say it is genetic code. In philosophy, you call it karma. That is your karma. Therefore, how we form the karma in our wave? By our own actions, by our own experiences. All our experiences through the brain, they go to the brain, converts the experiences into a wave, and all the waves are grouped together, and you have a wave complex. All your records are there, all your karmas are there. And once the record is there, the base of your wave is consciousness. Because consciousness became the wave. And in that wave, you have the imprint. So the base of the wave is consciousness. The consciousness, what it does, it tries to bring back your karma, your imprint into action. It reflects. So from the wave complex, reflections are there. reflections are produced by the base consciousness. And these reflections you call your thoughts. Suppose you think, okay, in a week about, I must go to Delhi. You just think of that. Immediately that is recorded in your wave complex. Recorded. And consciously you might have forgotten that. But after 2 or 3 days, the base of the consciousness reflects that. So the thought comes and you are being reminded that, oh, we must go to Delhi. Have I booked my ticket? Then you say, no, still there is a time to book the ticket. So the karmas are reflected by the consciousness, the base of the wave. So, to sum up, in every human being, all his experiences are recorded in his wave complex, which is inside his human body. And from that wave complex, thoughts are coming up. The consciousness tries to put the imprints back into action. So thoughts emanate from that. And now, where my experiences are recorded, from where my thoughts are arising, and that is called my mind. So what is your mind? It is a wave complex inside your own body, inside your body. So now we get a definition for mind. So far, there exists no definition for what mind is. People have said what mind does. It won't obey you. It will be jumping. All those things they were saying that what mind does. But they never told us what mind is. Now Vedakarian Maharishi says what your mind is, it is a wave complex. And in that wave complex, all your experiences are recorded. From the same wave complex, your thoughts are arising about your own experiences. Now, Maharishi, the philosophy goes further. Since it is a wave in consciousness, I don't have any control over the wave. It's a wave in consciousness. This wave in consciousness, carrying my experiences, carrying my karma, the waves go beyond my body. The waves go beyond my body, and these waves reach some other human being, and these waves enter that human being, and the waves on my karma is influencing his karma also. Therefore, myself and another human being, we are linked by these waves. Similarly, my waves with my own imprints, with my own karma, they are going in all directions, falling everywhere. So everything is linked to me. And I am linked to everything else by this wave. If there is no wave system in me, I will be simply separated from anything else. It is because of this wave I am linked to somebody else. Okay. I am linked to somebody else not by my physical parts. I am linked to somebody else not by my hand, not by my heart, okay, not by my head, but I am linked to all by the waves, that's all. That's the difference. So these waves spreading everywhere, okay, they carry my experiences, my karmas, and they influence everybody's karma. So one mind can influence the other. So the saying is that I am not an isolated person. I am influencing everybody in the universe, and everybody in the universe is influencing me. That is why one scientist, one poet said, we are all linked by one another by a wave system. Therefore, you cannot pluck a flower without disturbing a distant star. Without disturbing a distant star, you cannot pluck a flower here in your garden. The moment you pluck, that produces a ripple, and the ripple goes away and it disturbs everything else. Therefore, friends, the science of mind is that mind is a wave system inside every human being. So inside every living being, okay, there is a life energy. There is a biocurrent. Okay. Biocurrent means Akash particles going in a circulation. These particles going in a circulation, because of their spinning, they produce a wave complex. In that wave complex, my experiences are recorded. And to go further, the further research in the same line, that before we conclude about the mind, the further information is, friends, in my body, all over the body, there is blood. Even in the nail, if I cut the nail in the wrong way, blood comes. Every part of the body, the blood is there. But the density of the blood is maximum in my heart. Because the heart is the pumping center. And there the blood is accumulated in a heavy way. So the density there is highest. And that blood goes to various ways, density decreases, it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner, but it is available everywhere. And similarly, the air. In every part of my body, the air is there, oxygen is there, but its density, the air density is maximum in the lungs, because it is where the air is received and accumulated. So the density is more there. So the air is everywhere, but its density is maximum in the lungs. Similarly, the wave with my imprints, it is there in my body everywhere, but its density, that means the height of the wave. When I say density of the wave, it is the height of the wave. The wave may be a small height, or the wave may be a tsunami like that. Height of the wave, the height of the wave is maximum in a particular region. And that region has been identified in a human body is that you go back your spinal cord, you come down through the by the spinal cord, the last link, and below that, a few inches below that, you call that region Mooladhara. And the researchers have shown that the density of the wave, the height of the wave is maximum in the Mooladhara region. And it has been also explained in a beautiful way. There is also an explanation for that. But now we have to understand, where is your mind? Your mind is located in the region Mooladhara. What does it contain? It contains waves, different size of different types of waves, all carrying my experiences. It is a wave complex. Okay. From the wave complex, what happens? The thoughts are coming out. The thoughts are coming. And the base of the consciousness always tries to put the imprints back into the action through the brain. Therefore, the science of the mind almost gets completed. to sum up is that mind is a group of characterized waves or modulated waves, modulated by our experience. It's a modulated wave, and these waves are located in a great height with a great intensity in our Mooladhara. So the Mooladhara is a region of our mind. And to conclude, one more information, that's all. One more information to conclude. Friends, if you put a mango seed in the soil, okay, then the mango sprouts into a small plant. Okay, it gives a particular type of leaves, and if you taste the leaves, it has got a particular taste. And how it is able to do that? Because the mango seed contains all the imprints of its mother, the mother tree. Therefore, the imprints are coming into action, that's all. So whatever its mother did, it is only repeating that. In fact, the whole mango tree has shrunk into the mango seed. And the mango seed contains all the experiences of the mother tree. And that small seed, when it is given a chance to grow, it repeats what its mother did. In whatever month mother bore the fruits, the same month it will also do that. Similarly, as a tree, the tree comes out of a single seed, but it ends in seeds, plural. One becomes a many. That is a characteristic behavior of the Brahman. One becomes the many. Every Jivan, it starts from a seed, but it becomes many. Therefore, a tree means what? Starts from a seed and ends in a seed. That is all its life. Similarly, a human being. A human being finally shrinks into a small seed in himself, and that is what we call a sperm. Similarly, a woman shrinks herself into a small portion which we call egg. So a male human being shrinks into a sperm. In fact, the sperm contains every experiences of every karma of the male into it. And the sperm and the egg joined together becomes a circle, becomes a child. So when the child forms, when it is formed, it has got the imprints borrowed or which came through its parents. So every one of us, when we were formed with imprints from our parents. So those imprints which we got from our parents, those imprints grouped together is called Sanchita Karma. And once I come to this world, I learned from my mother, I learned from my father, so many experiences. I go to school, my friends, my society, my government, so many things are being told, and I put on all these experiences into my wave complex. Already my wave complex contains the imprints borrowed through my parents. That's a Sanchita Karma. To the Sanchita Karma, I add my own experiences, and it's called Prarabdha Karma. So I also add the Prarabdha Karma. What is the difference between an animal and a human being? The animal, Sanchita Karma is there, but it doesn't develop a Prarabdha Karma to change the Sanchita karma. Up to the animal, they live, they do what their parents did, that's all. But in a human being, God developed the human being with a different technique. The human being alone, I have the power to develop, to put a prarabdha karma, and by using the prarabdha karma, I can change the effect of the sanchita karma also. That is the power of the human being alone. So, the mind of a human being contains imprints borrowed through my parents, sanchita karma. The same mind contains also the imprints which I have gathered, the prarabdha karma, and both the imprints are directing me, my behavior. Both the karmas put together, they are directing me. My behavior is controlled by them. Therefore, on what depends my behavior? My behavior depends upon the relative strengths of the sanchita karma and the prarabdha karma. Sometimes my prarabdha karma will win the sanchita karma, and sometimes it cannot win. So both can happen. Therefore, the same human being, he can be driven by the age-old concepts, or he can be driven by a concept recently obtained by him. Both are there. So the question is here, how we are going to behave ourselves, purely by sanchita karma or purely by the prarabdha karma. Now there comes a question, when I have the ability to change my sanchita karma by a proper prarabdha karma, if my father is of a bad quality, if my mother has a wrong quality, not appreciable, I can change the quality and I can become a better person. I need not repeat, and my parents are not the limit for my behavior. My parents, I can exceed my parents through my prarabdha karma. That can happen only in a human being. That is why Vivekananda will say, don't blame where you were born. Don't blame about your parents. You have the power to go to grow to the sky. So the future is in your hand. Put proper prarabdha karma so that the bad karmas of the sanchita also can be changed. And so with that, we will finish the discussion today about the science of mind. The science of mind, the second part, which we have to remember that, how do we define God first? Okay. The primordial space, endless space, boundless space of consciousness and energy is what we call God. Okay. That became the five elements and the whole universe. And in the particular jiva, the same particle, the Akash particle, produced a wave in consciousness. So the particles became, they constitute my body, the waves constitute my mind. So our forefathers divided this into three sheets, into three groups. The physical body of the elements, and the circulation of the Akash particle, which gives rise to the life current, is called the astral body. And the imprints in my mind, the imprints which are responsible for my behavior, it is called causal body. So I have three bodies put together. The physical body, which I can touch. The astral body, which is nothing but my life current, constituted by the circulatory motion of the Akash particles. And my causal body is a wave complex, the mind wave complex, with full of imprints. So I have a combination of three bodies, and when I come to my mind, the mind contains both good and bad. It is your duty to put what into action. That is a role I have. I need not go simply by the Sanchita karma. I can put the proper prarabdha karma and I can change. My father may not know the spelling for a cricket game, but I'll be a great cricket player. My father would have simply an agricultural laborer, but I can become the vice chancellor of a university. My father is not the limit for my growth. That happens only in a human being. So let us make use of this power given by God to us. You can change your Sanchita karma by a proper prarabdha karma. This power that God has given to us, let us try to utilize this power so that all our actions are good both to us and also to others. And that is a proper prarabdha karma. So by a proper prarabdha karma, we must make our actions conducive, good for ourselves and also good for others also, and that is called the ethical behavior. So the ethical behavior, the ethics comes for the human being because he can change, but there is no ethics for an animal. Animal kills and eats because it goes by simply the Sanchita karma. It is not responsible for what it does. But I am responsible for me, what I am doing, because I could have changed. Therefore, if my father was killing and eating, why should I do that? I can change. Okay. So that change we must put together so that every species, every person around me is enjoying his own happiness, and the ethics is there only for human beings. With that, we finish today our discussion on the science of mind. Thank you very much for listening to this. And last time I got a very good answer. I got a very good question rather, a suggestion rather, try to develop between space and energy and equation, which we are taking seriously. I hope I have placed our Vedakarian science and Vedakarian philosophy before you. And you are great philosophers teaching philosophy in the philosophy department, and you must take things further or you modify according to whatever you think it is possible. But anyway, let us give a try for this new philosophy, the Vedakarian philosophy. Thank you very much for the time you have spent with us. Thank you. Be blessed, blessed, blessed. Valga Valamudan.
Thank you so much, sir, for another beautiful lecture. Well, I should congratulate you for redefining science, and also at the same time congratulate Professor Vijay Arora, who could write a book along with you on redefining science, beginning a new beginning, having a new beginning in science, taking the Indian metaphysics. And like the earlier lecture, another good take that we have from this lecture, what I could understand, is that you have defined in the last class that space is charged with energy and consciousness. Now that you have said that it is this space that spins and grows into a particle. Now I wish to say that it is because that space is charged with energy that there could be a spin in the space. Had there been no energy, there could have been never a spin. Now the second part is that space is charged with consciousness. It is because of this consciousness that the spin is getting a direction. Well, you have said this. So another good take from your lecture is, now you see we have got a particle growing out of space, and it is these particles we can define the entire creation, the entire world. So another good take from you, sir. So it's the fundamental reality. Space is the fundamental reality. Now Vedakarian science, it requires a mathematical equation that has to be formulated, developed, as you have said. Now, well, it will lead to a new world. I hope so. And with this hope, let us move to the participants for the questions and the discussion. Welcome, participants. Well, at first, I would like to invite. Well, we have with us Vijay Arora. Well, he's there because he has a book with you now. His observations. First of all, let us record. Professor Vijay Arora, sir, please, sir.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I just want to introduce myself. I met Vedakarian Maharishi for the first time in 1969 when I was a student at IIT Delhi. And there was something about him which was very different. And as a result, I sort of became his disciple and maintained that connection throughout my life until his samadhi. And I got an opportunity to work with Dr. Ramanujan on taking his philosophy and putting it into the scientific terms. And as Dr. Ramanujan was talking about beginning from the beginning. So we took that concept and put together, and maybe I can share this book with you all.
Good, good, Vijay, good.
I don't know if, can you see all this?
Yes, physics redefined.
Yes. And so I think the task which Dr. Ramanujan is on, he has a research student also working on trying to progress that. And that's all I can say. And I'm very happy and glad that all of you professors in philosophy gave us a good hearing. And any insights or inputs you may have would be very helpful in this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Arora, for your observations, and hopefully we'll be going for a combined lecture on this in later days, because you're into a task of changing the structure of reality and the thought concerning the entire universe. Because now, as Professor Ramanujan has tried to say, even the Big Bang theory is into a question mark because of the possibilities that they are in, and now with this physics, that is science that is coming up with very appropriate answers that Professor Ramanujan could suggest. So you are redefining science and thinking of a new beginning in science. Well, we can think on this even in the Department of Philosophy, so that this culture of developing Indian metaphysics in a scientific way would greatly help all concerned, not in the Department of Philosophy, for the entire creation, for the understanding of the universe at large. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we have with us Professor Ranjit Ghosh, sir, let me invite him for his observations. Professor Ghosh, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. Namaskar. Welcome, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Rao. I'm rather spellbound to hear Professor Ramanujan's explanation of Vedakarian metaphysics. Now, what I have some observation and one query. The first thing is this, sir, don't you think that this is just reinterpreting the Vedantic philosophy in the scientific way? This is one thing. And because all explanations you have given are or can be traced back into the Vedanta philosophy of Shankara. So it's a monistic version that Vedakari has given, as against the dualistic philosophy, the pineal gland theory of the mind as given by Descartes and others. So this is one thing. Now, what he has done, as you explained, that if mind and consciousness are same, then one question that arises in my mind is this, that is beyond consciousness is itself a form of consciousness? Because mind is, if consciousness is everything, and mind is consciousness. So when we use beyond consciousness, so if that beyond consciousness is coming under your wave complex theory, then there is no problem. Okay, so how would you explain this? This small question. Thank you, sir. Very nicely presented. It's a very good thing to hear from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the nice observations. Coming to your first observation, that whatever you have told, can it be taken as Vedanta retold in a different language? Can it be taken like that? Okay. For some reasons, we cannot simply equate Vedakarian science or philosophy to Vedanta simply because of one reason. In Vedanta, there is a statement, Brahman or the primordial, it became everything. But the methodology, how that infinite Brahman became an infinitely small particle, that methodology is missing there. That's a point. And that methodology is supplied by Vedakari Maharishi. How? Once, you see, the problem is, for the scientists, they started with a bulk matter, then they came to molecules, then they came to atom, then they came to particles like proton, till going down, they came to fundamental particle. And below the fundamental particle, they cannot jump. They start with the fundamental particle. And where from the fundamental particle came from, they don't answer. They will simply say, we start with the fundamental particle. And that is why there are so many problems there. That's a different thing. And the philosophers, the one primordial became everything. Good. It is true also. But what is a jumping process that one infinity plenum became an infinitely small particle? What is a methodology? The methodology for the first time comes from Vedakari Maharishi. And many thinkers hereafter may improve this methodology, may improve. But to my understanding, Vedakari Maharishi is the first person to start such a dialogue of giving a methodology. And this methodology, because of this methodology now, I have a conviction, yes, the primordial Brahman became by this methodology the particle, and particle became like that. The methodology gives me a conviction, that's all, that Vedanta is right. I get one more conviction that Vedanta is right in the sense that what is missing there, Vedanta Maharishi has supplied, that's all. That's one thing. And another thing, when you come to mind, okay, mind is the totality of the imprints in the wave complex. The wave complex is consciousness is a wave. Consciousness is the base. Okay. Now, so long as the wave complex has the imprints, the wave cannot subside to its base, cannot subside. So the mind thinks that the mind is not able to get a samadhi with a basic consciousness. It still exists as a different entity. Okay. So, if we can, is here. If I can remove all my imprints, if I can, then my mind becomes of pure consciousness. So to reach the pure consciousness, I must drop the mind. I must drop the imprints. Okay. So the imprints is between me and the pure consciousness. Okay. When I was born, when I was born, I don't have any attachment to anything else. My mind was rather free. Slowly, I got attachment with my mother, father, brothers. As attachment, the mind is there, developing, going away from the base. It is moving away from the base. Now I give importance only to the attachments. I don't even think of my base. So only when I drop the mind, that means when I erase all my imprints, it can go back to the pure consciousness. That is the relationship between the mind and the consciousness. Mind is there so long as the imprints are there. Thank you very much for your observations.
Thank you, sir, for your response. Well, one thing comes to my mind here. Well, taking a clue from your last lecture, where you said that if you take space as the fundamental reality, it is the ultimate reality, that if it is taken as the cause of everything, it must be beyond the effect. So the world, if you take the world as an effect, and if this world is an effect, and the cause of this world must be beyond this world. Okay, so, and that cause you have taken as space as the fundamental reality. And you have said that it is out of space that this world has shaped up, taking the Akasa particle, okay, and growing into the bulk matter and all that. So the space is in the world as matter, space is beyond the world as pure space. So whatever the space, wherever the form of space may be, as you said, it is always charged with matter, charged with energy and consciousness. So consciousness is always there, whether it is in the world or beyond. So consciousness is always there. So when we talk of mind, defining mind is consciousness would be wrong. Mind is a place where the consciousness has the highest density. The way you say the density of blood is highest in the heart. So mind is the mula dharma, where it's a mula chakra where we have consciousness. Okay, so mind is consciousness would not be a right way to say it. Rather, the consciousness is at its maximum in the mind, but entire cosmos is charged with consciousness. That way I wish to take this, the entire the question frame, the framework that Professor Ghosh has tried to ask, and I see this, the entire pattern something like this. So defining mind as consciousness would be not right, but rather mind is a place where the consciousness, the density of consciousness is at the maximum, but entire cosmos is charged with consciousness. This consciousness is everywhere, even a stone, a rock, everything is charged with consciousness. This is my take. Thank you.
One observation to you have made a very good observation that mind cannot be the consciousness. I agree. We cannot equate mind to the consciousness because consciousness is free of imprints, but mind is full of imprints. So it is a combination of the imprints we call mind. The imprints is there in the waves of the consciousness. That's all. One can never say that mind and consciousness are the same. No. Consciousness imposed with imprints. That imprints is a group of imprints is mind. It is not the consciousness. Once you remove the imprints, mind is not there. Mind resolves into consciousness.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Very nice, sir. Thank you so much. Well, we have with us Krishnamurti, sir. Well, he wants to say something. Well, welcome, sir.
Sir, if you take that point into account, then what happens if we say that consciousness is everything, then mind becomes a byproduct of consciousness. How can we separately segregate mind and consciousness? Going with the Dr. Rao's view. For that reason, mind and consciousness are same. We have to accept. This is what my contention is. How would you react to this? Thank you, sir.
Narendra, you have got something to say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If we equate mind with consciousness, the entire thesis of Vedakarian Maharishi would fail.
Yes.
Because Vedakarian Maharishi is to the point saying that everything, space is the fundamental reality. Even Einstein was trying to find that one reality that is fundamental, out of which everything is shaped out. Well, he has failed in his attempt. Well, he has come down to the space-time continuum as a reality and mass energy equation that he has come up with. So he has defined, he could not come up with one fundamental reality out of which everything is shaped up. Now, he was also in search of a fundamental reality out of which everything is shaped up. Now, that's why he has formulated a unified field theory, but he could not succeed. So to define one element out of which everything has come out, it is from Indian science, from the Indian standpoint, that we have something in the form of a space which is charged with energy and consciousness, and we have already an equation linking energy with mass, and you can every way comfortably the equation given by Einstein, changing this energy into mass and the mass into energy. So that equation is already available with us now. The last time I was also saying that we need an equation connecting space with energy. If that could be done, it would be a beautiful thing that we can expect to new science. And to the question that if you equate mind with consciousness, then the entire thesis that space is the fundamental reality charged with consciousness would somehow fail. That's why mind is not consciousness. Mind has consciousness, but mind is not consciousness. So this is my understanding of Vetadri Maharishi's position. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Looking at this question,
Welcome, sir. Professor Srinivasan.
Looking at this question, mind and consciousness, let us see the Arabian Sea. If we come down, you have the Indian Ocean. If we still move up, you have the Bay of Bengal. The Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, all a basic stretch of water. It's a basic stretch of water, that's all. So the water permeates Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal. But the nature of waves in the Arabian Sea and the nature of waves in the Indian Ocean and the nature of waves in the Bay of Bengal, the nature is different. In the month of July, you can travel towards the Indian Ocean. The waves are very gentle, but you cannot say, the government of India will say, don't travel through the Arabian Sea because the wave is there very turbulent. Therefore, the waves are different, but the basic consciousness is the same. So through everybody, every jiva, the consciousness runs through. Consciousness is the same. But in every jiva, the waves are different. The wave complex is called your mind. So the consciousness is the same through every jivan, but the mind of jivan differs from every other jivan. The mind differs, but the consciousness is the same. As the water is the same, but the waves are different from the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean, like that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Well, Professor Srinivasan, sir, please. Sir, you want to say something? Professor Srinivasan. Yes, you wanted to say something, sir? No. Well, sir, Srinivasan, sir, wanted to say something?
Yes.
Yes, welcome.
Good evening, sir, to the philosophy family members. And I am really grateful to Professor Dr. Ramanujan for his excellent presentation about the science of mind philosophically and scientifically through Vedakarian philosophy. It's indeed impeccable, I would say. But unfortunately, I am being a radical element. I don't completely, agree with what Professor Dr. Ramanujan has said about the Vedakarian philosophy of mind. Because I am being carried away I am being essentially a Sankhya philosopher as well as an Advaita philosopher, as well as I believe in Saiva Siddhanta philosophy. And I think Professor Pramod will intervene and say that was his Dr. Ramanujan's own perception and his topic of the day was such. However, I am just tempted to ask certain questions which I found no answers, as Professor Ranjit Singh has said about the Vedantic philosophy and the Vedakarian philosophy. See, the Sankhya philosophy or the Advaita philosophy or even the the Saiva Siddhanta philosophy or even Kashmirian Saivism philosophy, they don't, agree with the Vedakarian way of a presentation of the science of mind scientifically and metaphysically, because it doesn't speak about the spirituality. Spirituality is never involved in this. So I do not understand why should I have to worry too much about the interpretation given by Sri Vedadri Maharishi, as I am reminded of Srimad Bhagavad Gita's Lord Sri Krishna's Karma, I think it is coming in Sankhya Yoga, verse number 28, Avyakthani Budhani Vyaktamathyani Bharadaha Avyaktha Nida Nanyeva Tatraga Bardevana. That means, from where I have come to this world, I know I am existing here, but where am I going to end up is certainly indefinite. So there is no point in brooding about what is happening here, but I feel that Vedadri Maharishi is speaking more about the welfare of the humanity here in this present world, whereas the Sankhya Karika, Advaita philosophy and Saiva Siddhanta philosophy, they speak only about the emancipation theory of humanity. Really go into the detail scientifically, which is I'm just blind, entering into a blind valley. I cannot understand anything about ABCD of the Vedadarian philosophy, because no, it is so much confusing. When crystal clear water is there, we should get into this kind of polluted or muddled water to know about the secrecy of the humanity. And in my perception, I would request you to kindly tell me, sir, what Mr. Vedadri Maharishi has thought about the evolutionary theory, and also what does he speaks about emancipation process? How does the Akash is responsible for total protection, maintenance and annihilation, as you rightly said, or moksha, or plurality of minds? There is a notion of difference between Sankhya philosophy and Vedadarian philosophy, as well as other Eastern philosophies. I would request you to kindly, brief me a little bit in depth into that, and I thank you very much for your for the excellent opportunity given to me, and also for the excellent speech given to you by Dr. Ramanujan, sir. Thank you.
Only one minute observation over this. I fully agree with Professor Srinivasan. I fully agree that Saiva Siddhanta philosophy or Sankhya philosophy are different from Vedadari Maharishi's philosophy. True. That is why we have a different philosophy. Otherwise, we could be talking about again same Saiva Siddhanta or same Sankhya. We want to different a different philosophy, not that a philosophy which will agree with anything else. Now, not only Saiva Siddhanta or Sankhya or Vedadari Maharishi will differ. No two philosophies in the world agree with each other. Which is correct? Who is to decide? Whether Sankhya is correct, or Saiva Siddhanta is correct, or Vedadari Maharishi is correct? Who is to say which is correct and which is wrong? Depends upon my own taste, that's all. If I have a more taste for Saiva Siddhanta, I am going to say Saiva Siddhanta is right. If I have a more taste to Bhagavad Gita, I am going to say Vedanta is right. That's all. No two philosophies agree with each other in the world. But the problem is there is nobody to say which is right and which is wrong.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Thank you. Thank you, Professor, sir. Well, Srinivasan, sir, Ramanujam, sir, has very nicely said the evolution of the world from the space itself. What more you want? The conversions are there, the energy equations are there. And he is also talking of a linkage between space and energy that he's trying to develop, and the research team is working on. So the evolutionary
Excuse me.
theory is there. So
Sorry.
again, one line, sir, then you can have one. And here, Ramanujam, sir, is not talking of humanity. He is talking about the fundamental reality out of which entire thing has shaped up. So he's not taking Vedadari Maharshi might have talked of humanity in a different platform, in a different, but here the talk is not on humanity, it is on the fundamental reality. And he is speaking, Ramanujam is saying that, Professor Ramanujam is saying that space is the fundamental reality out of which everything has come up, everything has shaped up, and it is a very beautifully carved evolutionary model that we can have for this world. And I don't see any question on humanity on here, because he's here. The talk is not on humanity, but on the fundamental reality out of which everything has come out. And beautifully, he has scientifically tried to give, and because he's a man of physics, he has tried to scientifically connect the thoughts of Vedatri Maharishi in a beautiful manner. And thanks to Professor Ramanujan for this attempt. Thank you so much, sir. Well, over to Professor Pramod Kumar Das for his observations.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, for giving me this opportunity to have my observation. I am really happy and I really enjoyed the talk of Professor Ramanujan. Very simply, it can be said that we have to start the philosophical reflection or scientific inquiry from the beginning, and that is one. Number one. The second point is that one from which we shall start our scientific journey or philosophical journey, that must be all inclusive. Nothing could be excluded from that one. This is the second assumption that we have to believe, and this is also logically true, because from the less reality we cannot derive more realities. So that must be one, and that must be all inclusive. Second, and the 1 minute, I am just muting. Okay. And third point is, whatever comes out of that all inclusive one, that also returns to that oneness. This is the third principle. The source is one. Secondly, the source is all inclusive. Thirdly, whatever comes or manifests from that source, that also returns to that source. The entire discussion that about Vedakarian science is this one principle. That principle is all inclusive, and there is a reverse journey, that everything can come out of that and everything can go back to that. Second part of our discussion was, there are two states of existence. One is the static state and the other is the spinning state. Spinning is not in the verb sense, spinning in the sense of a noun sense. There is a spinning state and the other is the static state. In the static state, that one is unmanifest. In the spinning state, it is manifest. So, the unmanifest and the manifest both constitute the entire reality. Then we shall put this methodology to explain cosmology. How can we explain mind? How can we explain the world? How can we explain law of karma? By putting this methodology only. The distinction between mind and consciousness is also that. Consciousness is the oneness all-inclusive state, free from all types of imprints. And mind is that which is corrupted with, which is which has accumulated so many imprints. Similarly, when Professor Ramanujan was speaking about particles, this is also a manifestation of that spinning state of oneness. When that oneness is spinning, that we may call it space, we may call it Brahman, does not matter. If we call it Brahman, we shall be in the camp of Vedanta philosophy. If we shall call it space, then we are in the shelter house of Vedantarian ashram. It does not matter, but that must be one. And when it is in the spinning state, we have many. Ekam bahusam. One becomes many. How one becomes many? One becomes many in the state of a dynamism. In the dynamic state, one becomes many. Going to Sankhya philosophy, referring to Sankhya philosophy in this connection, when all these three gunas, Sattva, Raja and Tama, are in the equilibrium state, that means they are not dynamic, they are not they are not dynamic, they do not interfere with each other, that there is nothing else, it is static. But when one guna dominates over other guna, when they are in the spinning state, when they are in the dynamic state, creation takes place. This is also there in Sankhya system. Only in the dynamic state of anything, we get energy, we get so many manifestations. Our body is out of that, our mind is out of that, our intellect is out of that. These are all modifications, these are all manifestations. But what is the ultimate source? The ultimate source is pure consciousness. In Vedanta, it is also said that that is Turiya. That is Turiya. But there are different levels of consciousness. Jagrata, Sapna, all these various levels of consciousness. In Vedantarian methodology, we are giving a model as we take the help of a doll or a ball to explain a child about great science. Similarly, we are giving a beautiful model to understand that Vedantic philosophy. There is no difference. Professor Ranjit Ghosh said very rightly that it is equal to Vedantic philosophy. And in answer, Professor Ramanujan said that only the methodology is missing. So he gave a scientific methodology by this way, that the space is filled with consciousness and that is one, but in the spinning state it becomes many, having the form of particles. Then when we are talking about mind, we do not find its address, we do not find its location. Where is mind? So mind is a human possibility. If the entire world becomes the body, then entire cosmos, entire creation becomes the body, then the very man is mind. Because in man we are searching mind, it will not be available. In human body, that mind may not be available, it may be a misnomer. But if the entire creation will become the body, then the very man is mind. So mind is a human possibility. In that sense, man is rational. In that sense, man can make judgments. In that sense, ethics is meaningful for human beings. So So that very beautifully Professor Ramanujan said that is wave complex, the wave complex. So that is also a product of that unmanifest primordial consciousness, which is a human possibility only. Therefore, karma is a human possibility. No animals do any karma. Karma with a sense of parabdha, sanchita, kriyamana, karma with a sense of ethical value, karma and karma phala, all these things are related to our psychic reactions, our psychic waves. And scientifically speaking, every cell of our body has memory. Every cell of our body has memory. So out of that memory, we have different reactions and responses. That is how we create our karma. But there is a human freedom. We are free to change our destiny because we have a free will. So in spite of the sanchita karma, we can have our new karma by the best use of the wave mechanism, and we can have new thoughts, and by having new thoughts we can create new karma, and by that we can make our destiny. Then what is the ultimate destiny? The ultimate destiny is that where from we come, we have to reach there. Where from we have come, that is the consciousness. Now we are in the state of a mind. Animals are in the state of a body, and Maharshi is in the state of intellect. But what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is where from we have come, we have to reach there. That means from the consciousness, we have to transform to the state of self-consciousness, the pure consciousness. That is the ultimate transformation. So the methodology is, that is one, that is all inclusive, and that is that source from which everything has come, and to which everything returns back, goes back. So we are in the reverse journey if we are in the spiritual sadhana. Where we are going, if we are actually in the right path, we are having a reverse journey to the pure consciousness. If we are in the wrong path, we are going towards the manifestation. Whether we are moving towards manifestation or we are having a reverse journey to the unmanifest, that depends upon our psychic exercise, that depends upon our choice, that depends upon our spiritual sadhana. This is very simple. Thank you, Professor Ramanujan. You just explained Vedanta philosophy in scientific way. And when we are talking about oneness, the dualistic philosophy of Sankhya and the pluralistic philosophy of other systems, they are well explained when we explain that one. Nothing remains unexplained when we refer to the all-inclusive one, because everything is included there. Dualism is included, pluralism is included, negation is included. Therefore, it is all-inclusive. Thank you, Professor Ramanujan.
Blessed. One more, a small observation on a nicely presented version of Vedakarian Science and Philosophy by Professor Pramod. He narrated the whole science, philosophy, mind, destiny, free will in a highly philosophical form, so that we get new points about the Vedakarian philosophy. he has given certain insights into the Vedakarian philosophy when he told about the free will, uh, and when he told about we have the willpower to go high, and all these things, we realize that, all these things are contained in Vedakarian philosophy. It is a news for us also. So it is rather myself giving the lecture, I have gained much today. What our Vedakarian philosophy stands for. Okay. It's a very revealing lecture, revealing comments by Professor Pramod, and really speaking, I felt as if Vedakariya Maharishi is speaking through Pramod about his own philosophy so that others can see the point there. I really remain thankful to Pramod for his eloquent way of putting things in a very logical, philosophical way, developing the whole content which I have given. It is an excellent way of putting in a philosophical way. Thank you, Professor Pramod. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Das, for beautifully putting Professor Ramanujan's lecture on Vedakarian Maharishi's view very logically and very precisely. And a good take from this is connecting to what he has said, that as you said, that the goal from which, the source from which everything has come out is one, and the goal to which everything is moving is also one. That the source from which everything has come out is the space, and the goal to which everything is going out is also the space. Therefore, the source and the goal are one. That is the space. So what ultimately counts is that space. So this is how we can take for Vedakarian Maharishi's thesis to justify the entire reality is nothing but the space. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, but we have to, when we talk of science, we have to go with the Western. We have to go with the Western world. Let Brahman be hidden. Let Brahman be hidden. Let space come to say that we are speaking. What we are speaking is nothing but the consciousness that is Brahman. So the beautiful take from Professor Das is that the goal, the source and the goal are one. And if we go by Vedakarian Maharishi's thesis, and it is nothing but the space, and space is always in the world and beyond the world. Space is always the manifested and also the unmanifested. So that is how we can take space as the fundamental reality, because it is in the world and is also beyond the world, and it is the ultimate reality, and it can justify all the other possibilities that human existence requires or the world requires. So that's how great lecture, sir, Professor Ramanujan, sir, and also great, a very good synopsis by Professor Pramod Das for the entire lecture. And we are also very much benefited by Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir's observations, Krishnamurti sir's observations, and others who and Professor Vijay Arora sir's comments and observations, because he is also working with Professor Ramanujan on this on this new beginning in science, and we hope, let us come up with very good conclusions in the near future, and may Vedakarian Maharishi rule this 21st century. As Professor Ramanujan was saying, that the 19th and the 20th century was ruled by England and Germany, may this century be named after India and the Indian science and the richness of Indian science. And why not? The great learning, the great treasure of knowledge is contained in the Indian tradition, and much of the concepts, I say you, even the philosophical concepts, have been taken from the Indian text, and they have been given the English color, the European color, and they have been quoted in their names. But if we look back what has been accepted in the West, we can find the parallels very much said thousands of years back in the Indian text. And if we are there to take out the treasure, we'll doing a great job to the entire humanity, the entire community, the world community, I mean. Thank you so much, sir, for this lecture. And also because today we don't have our coordinator, so I have the responsibility of thanking the speaker, Professor Ramanujan, for this wonderful lectures. What a great lecture it was. And I think it is an eye-opener for the scientific world through the Indian metaphysics. And if really an equation of the sort that connecting space energy that comes out, that would be a wonder for the world. And because Professor Ramanujam is working on that, and team is working on that now, well, if it comes, it's a great message for the entire world. And I also congratulate Professor Vijay Arora sir for being in coordination with Professor Ramanujam, and I also thank Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, Professor Srinivasan sir, Professor Pramod Kumar Das, and one and all who are connected here in this virtual platform for making this evening so good. And also this discussion that went on also gave various insights justifying and the Vedakarian thesis. And now it's my personal belief that Vedakarian Maharishi Vedatri's metaphysics, his science is much more scientific, and it is only the color, the shape that has to be filled in by the scientists working in that area to give a definite shape to what truly science is. Thank you so much, sir, for this lecture, and thank everybody, one and all, connected with this virtual platform. And also request Professor Ramanujam to come up with another lecture on Vedatri's science, so that we can, our philosophy family and the
Thank
members.
you. Thank you for the opportunity for one more lecture. I really cherish that. You can put the date depending upon your convenience.
Yes, sir. You have your sir. Whenever you speak or wish to speak, you please communicate the date so that we can make arrangements. Professor Das is there in charge of that, and he will be in touch with you, and we can work on this. And even someday, even Vijay Arora sir also can come with you,
Okay.
and you can deliver a lecture. So on this particular area, because this is one thing, a concrete thing that has come out, that space is the fundamental reality which the Western science is not aware of. So if we could really shape out this thesis, that would be a great contribution to the world with a lot of hope.
My sincere thanks to Dr. Narayana Rao for emphasizing what I casually said, that 19th century science, 20th century and 21st century, and for his nice comments over this and for his encouraging words. We remain very much thankful to Professor Narayana Rao.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, with this hope, let us move on. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you, Professor Arora and Professor Ranjit Ghosh, and one and all, for having a very good interactive session on this, the science of mind. And we could get a lot on this, and waiting for a lecture from Professor Ramanujam and also from Professor Virja Arora, sir. So with these words, let us move to Professor Pramod Das for declaring this meeting closed. Over to Professor Das.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are really grateful to Professor Ramanujan and Vijay Arora sir. We shall request Vijay Arora sir to fix a topic for philosophy family, and we shall be happy to hear from him, and also from Professor Ramanujan. Sir, shall we fix your date on 19th March? You are muted.
19th March?
19th March.
Okay, I will adjust.
Just after 1 month.
Okay, good.
And Vijay Arora sir for 26th March.
He is there. Vijay?
Yes.
Good, Vijay.
Yes,
So,
I'll work with Dr.
I shall create slots accordingly. Okay.
I'll work with Dr. Ramanujan to sort of set something up.
Yes. Sir, we shall add you in our philosophy family group. Vijay Arora sir, we shall add you in the philosophy family group, and you will give the message of your topic, sir.
Thank you. Will do.
With this, the meeting is declared closed. Thank you all.